Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is full of hot baloney about everything. And in the last 24 hours, we've learned just how big of a hypocrite the freshman socialist congresswoman really is. And some of it could put her in legal jeopardy, Alex. Let's start with her running Amazon out of New York City. Good job. That genius move cost the Big Apple up to 50,000 jobs and tens of billions in tax revenue. She claims she couldn't let the tech giant get a bunch of government handouts. And that is partially true, but the rest of it is very short-sighted. Get this, however, after an incredible amount of backlash, including a series of Manhattan billboards shaming her, AOC is now flip-flopping like every other politician in the world. According to her top aide, the congresswoman now says Amazon might be allowed into New York City after all, but only if there is community input. Translation, her Queens constituents want Amazon's tax dollars and good-paying jobs. Congrats, AOC, you are now a full-blown hypocrite. But wait, there's more. Remember how Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been so vocal against dark money in politics? How transparency was so important, you guys? Yeah, well, looks like that might have been BS too, according to a new Federal Elections Commission complaint. AOC's chief of staff allegedly funneled nearly $1 million in donations through a pair of political action committees. That part is fine, but then they went into two private companies that he also controlled. And that, as they say in Germany, is a big 9-9, because you're not allowed to hide that kind of money. Naturally, Ocasio-Cortez is denying any wrongdoing. Watch.
There is no violation, so there's no violation.
Do you think that's a sign of you taking dark money?
Oh, no. I'm 100% legal friendly. Thank you.
It's no dark money, what? But if true, what kind of trouble could Team AOC really be in? And is this the kind of thing that could sink her brand new political career? Joining me now, attorney Gayle Trotter with all the answers. So, Gayle, what is the big deal in this FEC complaint?
Right. Well, these are serious and troubling allegations, and if they're true, they could result in serious consequences, including jail time. Essentially, we have very strict campaign finance laws that require reporting, which goes into what you're talking about, the hypocrisy, that there's a need for transparency. And then there are also campaign contribution limits. And these allegations basically pull back the veil on what possibly her campaign was doing in coordination with an independent PAC, a PAC that's supposed to not be controlled by the campaign. And then also the allegations are that money was taken from the PACs, funneled into separate organizations that were not PACs, and they were disguised as consulting fees. And thus, that
sounds like a really great way to make money, though. Just pay yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars in consulting fees. Ain't politics great? Who says you can't make a bunch of money? So I understand why her chief of staff, Saikat Chakrabarti, might be in trouble, but why is AOC potentially in hot water as well?
Right. Well, the candidates are required to file forms. And if you look at the forms that have been put in these news reports, it did not show that AOC and her chief of staff, who was a campaign manager at that time, were controlling this PAC. And that is a failure. Anytime you submit a federal election reporting form, you need to be truthful. You need to be honest. And it's so ironic that AOC has been out there talking about transparency and the malign influence of money in politics, and yet these are very clear rules that every candidate has to follow.
Who has violated these rules in the past that we might know about? Is there a high-profile story that...
Yes. There was a recent case in 2015 under similar factual allegations of this with AOC and her campaign, and the person who was prosecuted for those criminal allegations had to serve jail time. So this is a very serious allegation that could really derail the socialist want-to-be of the Democratic Party. And as you started at the very beginning of this segment, when you can't even get the rules right and follow the laws, if you're trying to add additional laws and you disregard the laws that are already on the books, it makes constituents wonder what your agenda is.
Well, and her chief of staff, he's a tech millionaire. He's a multimillionaire, made a bunch of money in Silicon Valley, and he went on MSNBC and basically laid out a roadmap for this very thing. And he says in his facts page that it was no secret what he was doing. They were doing something new. They were doing something big, and with her, it certainly worked because Justice Democrats were backing a number of up-and-coming political campaigns, and hers obviously got the most traction. She won and has stumbled into a high degree of notoriety since then. But some of the defenses she might be using have also been used by the Trump White House, and, you know, talking about unorthodox approaches to politics, which is fine. And also, you know, these are first-time politicians, and they're going to make mistakes. But it doesn't seem like AOC is really going to be gracious and forgiving in terms of some of the mistakes the president has made.
Well, and maybe she should understand the law before she's out there trying to make new legislation to limit the freedoms of fellow Americans. So I would say that's incumbent on her to understand what the law is, particularly when she's entrusted with her constituents' money who want to contribute to her campaign. And ignorance of the law is no defense.
No, she might find that out the hard way. It's really interesting. And, you know, I can see how her chief of staff may be in trouble, but, you know, these just growing pains of being the boss, I guess. Gayle Trotter, thank you so much.
Great to be with you, Kennedy.
Amen, sister.